Hello dear student, welcome to your English class 8. Today we are going to study Honeydew poem 5th The Schoolboy, poet William Blake. At first we will study about poet. Poet William Blake was born in London 28 November 1757, where he spent most of his life. His father was a successful London hosier and attracted by the religious teaching of Emmanuel Swedenborg. Blake was first educated at home, chiefly by his mother. Blake remained very close to his mother and wrote a lot of poetry about her life. Poems such as Cradle Song illustrate Blake's fond memories for his upbringing by his mother. So this is short biography of poet, noted poet William Blake. So now we'll start poem. Poem The Schoolboy. This poem is about an unhappy child. Here that unhappy child represented schoolboy. Sometimes he compared himself with a bird which is in cage, and sometimes he compared himself with a withered tree which should be blossom. So now stanza wise we will study here poem. First stanza. I love to rise in summer morn when the bird sings on every tree. The distant huntsman winds his horn and the skylark sings with me. Oh, what a sweet company. Here, first some new words in this stanza. Here, new words is distance huntsman. Huntsman means that hunter. And horn is a musical instrument. Then skylark is a singing bird, name of singing bird. So these are morn means here morning. So before explanation of this poem, this stanza, first we will discuss the rhyming scheme of the poem. So rhyming scheme will be identified on the basis of last word of each line. Just as here, the last word of first line, I love to rise in summer morn. Morn here, last word, we can represent it with A, suppose. Then when the birds sing on every tree. So last word is tree. So we represent it with B. Okay. Then next, the distance huntsman winds his horn. So first line morn and this third line horn. These are similar sounding word, means we can call them rhyming word. Rhyming word. So this morn and horn both are rhyming words. So we represent with same letter A. Then third line, and the skylark sings with me. Me. Then second line tree and this fourth line me. Both are similar sounding. So we can represent this me with the B. Then last line, oh sweet company. Company, it's also like a me. So it can also represented by B. So here the rhyming scheme of the poem is A, B, A, B, B. So rhyming scheme of this poem is A, B, A, B, B. Okay. I hope you understood the rhyming scheme of the poem. In every stanza, the same pattern used by the poet. So rhyming scheme will be same in the poem. Okay. So now we will explain you the explanation of the first stanza. So explanation of the first stanza. In first stanza, the speaker, a child, a small child, he likes to get up early in the morning in summer time because it's time very joyful and he likes awake in the fresh and delight summer morning. Further, he describes that the beauty of summer morn. The boy likes the chirping of the birds on every tree. When he early in the morning he get up and goes to the nearby field. There he heard the chirping sound of the birds and the horn of hunters blowing the horn. That sound of horn and The singing bird skylark sings. This company of early morning birds, chirping sound, huntsman horn, and skylark song. These three things just like a company for him, and he enjoyed a lot these three company. The hunter from distance field and sweet song of skylark bird. These three things he enjoyed early in the morning and he likes it a lot. He thought that this time is very joyful for him. So in first stanza, poet said that early in the morning, get up in summertime and he goes to nearby field and there he listened or heard very carefully the skylark song, huntsman's instrument sound, and that bird's chirping sound. These three things he enjoyed a lot. Yeah. Now, second stanza, stanza 2. But to go to school in a summer morn, oh, it drives all joy away. Under a cruel eye outworn, the little ones spend the day, the sighing and dismay. So here, difficult word or new words of this stanza. In first line is summer morn means summer morning. Drives all joy away. Drives means take out. Okay, snatch. Under a cruel eye outworn. Under a cruel eyes outworn means very strict vigilance or very strict supervision of someone. The little ones spend the day sighing and dismayed. Sighing and dismayed means that very unhappy and very sad or disappointed. Okay, so in second stanza, the poet said that in early in the morning, in summer morning, going to school, it's just a very disappointment or very unhappy for him. It is a matter of utmost disappointment for the speaker. Speaker means that schoolboy to attend the school in such a sweet summer morn, where actually he wishes to enjoy the delight of summer. He is tired and even puzzled under the strict supervision of his teacher. He has to sitting in a class in a strict supervision of teacher. Always teacher giving him instruction, giving him work, and under that pressure or under that instructions or very strict atmosphere, he puzzled or he become very disappointed. The phrase outworn refers, outworn means the eyes of teacher that actually tires the boy. Instead of enjoying in the field, listening skylark song and sound of chirping of birds, instead of that he has to sitting in the class. It was made him very boredom. It made him very disappointed. The child has to compulsory attended the school where he spent his day in boredom and sadness. All the day long he had to sit inside of the classroom. So it was very boredom for him, or it was very sadness for him. So now next stanza third. Then at times I drooping sit and spends many as an anxious hour. Nor in my book can I take delight, nor sit in learning bower, worn through with the dreary shower. Here, difficult word in third stanzas, drooping sit. Drooping sit means that hanging face due to tiredness and sitting very silent, very still, very inactive. Then, and spend many anxious hours. Anxious hour means very careful time or being very careful all the time. Nor in my book can I take delight. Delight means happiness. Now sit in the learning board. Learning board, which means that the place where the children can study very freely or with the freedom and in the contact of nature. That is known as the learning board. Worn through with the dreary shower. Dreary showers mean that the shower or the means pouring unnecessary words, unnecessary lectures. So explanation of third stanza. The child expresses his tiredness. In this stanza, child expresses his sadness, his pain of his heart, agony of his heart due to sitting in the classroom instead of going outside. He sits unwillingly in the sea of boredom. Sitting in the classroom, it is just like a sitting in the sea of boredom. The child keeps under control and continually the teacher pouring unnecessary lectures on him. After each period, the teachers are coming regularly and they are throwing the words, pouring the words, lectures on the student. Even the student is not willingly ready to accept a single word. And his urge of unchecked freedom. The learning bower refers to a garden where the child can be taught in an interesting way. Only if nature accompanies him instead of the school teacher. Here he wanted. He said he had to spend very anxious hour in the class. I cannot take delight in the books which I have in my bag. I cannot take any single happiness from the words which the teacher, my subject teachers are showering on me. I want to go to outside and want to sing with the birds, want to means show his happiness with the company of that nature and the all the natural things instead of sitting in the classrooms. Now next stanza, stanza 4. How can a bird that is born for joy sit in a cage and sing? How can a child when fears annoy but droop his tender wing and forget his youthful spring? Here we knew what this stanza. Sit in cage and sing no. How can a child when fears annoy but droop his tender wing? Droop his tender wing. Tender means that very soft or very means newly born or very big. Okay, droop it means that due to tiredness, getting weakness due to tiredness. And forget youthful spring. Here poet use word spring, youthful spring. It means that childhood days of a person or means golden period of a person's life, that is childhood period of childhoodness. So here poet compare himself with the bird. With comparison, what he said, the poet compares the child with a bird, and he said, according to his view, a bird which is born cheerful and fun-loving can never sing sweet song if caged. If we put any bird into the cage and ask him to sing natural notes, so it is not possible for the bird to sing natural notes sitting in the cage, because he is born only for the roaming in the nature and flying in the free sky and then singing. If we put him into the cage and ask him to sing, so it's not possible for him, for the bird. So similarly, a child if remained under umbrella of annoying fear and tension. Same way, if we put any child in stress, tension and very strict vigilance, so definitely the child cannot live his joyful or cheerful life anytime. So the natural instincts of the joy and playfulness. Indeed, a world full of rigid courses of discipline will ruthless take away the beautiful spring, means the childhood days of a person's life. If we put a child in a strict vigilance and discipline, so definitely this strict vigilance and discipline ruthlessly take out the natural way of life of the child, means that small child cannot live his youthful spring. Youthful spring means childhood days very freely, very enjoyable. So this way the poet compared himself, the poet compared a schoolboy, a small child, with the caged bird. Now next stanza 5th. O father and mother, if birds are nipped and blossoms blown away, and if the tender plants are stripped of their joy in the springing day by sorrow and care dismay. Here, O Father, here the poet urged or the poet requests to he addressed here their parents. What he said? Nipped, new words, birds are nipped. Nipped means that stretch out before blooming. Okay? Nip means before blooming a bird into a complete flower, before it plucked it or nipped it. and blossoms blown away. And if the tender plants are striped, tender plants, the plants which is very small one, sapling, and we stripe it means that uproot it. The, of their joy in the springing day. Springing day, again here springing day means the day when they are growing. They are the time when they are growing. As spring day regarding to the child, that's the childhood day, and regarding to the bird, regarding to the plant nymph, that is the period of blooming. By sorrow and care, dismay. Dismay means disappointment. So here in this stanza, the small child, he urged or he requested to their parents and addressed them. He said, "Oh father, oh parents, our parents must realize that their children are like tender plants." He said, "We children just like a tender plants. As the birds, they are blooming. Before blooming, if we plucked it out, and the tender plant, before growing it, if we uproot them, so how can they add the beauty of nature? How can they contribute their role for adding the beauty of how can they play their role to add the beauty in nature? The same way, if a children is also in his childhood, and when we put a lot of stress, lot of tension, lot of means burden on them, so how can they grow how can they grow happily? How can they contribute? How can they give their contribution in the social means? How can they give their contribution in the society? No doubt it will be depriving the plants of all its joy at early age. The same thing happened with a schoolboy when sorrow and care disheartened him. If you put them into such a tight situation or such a very stressful situation, so definitely they, due to the sorrow, cares, they have disheartened and they cannot grow as per their nature. So here poet urged their parents and asked them, don't do such a things with them and let them grow, let them means live their life very happily, very freely, with full of liberty. Now next, stanza 6. How shall the summer arise in joy, or the summer's fruits appear? Here, the poet, in that case, when the birds and flowers snatch out from the plants, how shall we ever find the joy of summer? Now, if there will be no summer flowers, there will be no fruits either. Here in last two lines, the poet said that if we plucked out the birds, if we uproot the small plant, tender plant, so how we can see the beauty in the atmosphere, how can we see the beauty in the nature? Because these two things, they add the beauty in the nature. The same way, if we do the same thing with the children, if we cannot give them if we cannot give them chance to grow themselves with the freedom, so how the small children can be after grown up, how can they play the role in their society, or how can they contribute in the society positively? So this way the poet said that if we have to give them freedom, we have to give them liberty and let them enjoy their childhood time with the full of freedom. So after that, they can be a good citizen, they can be a perfect citizens, and they can play an important role for the development of the society, as the small birds bloom and become the flower, and small plant grown up and become the big tree, and they add the beauty in the nature. The same way, the small children also aid the beauty in the society. So student, I hope you understood this poem, the rhyming scheme of the poem, stanza wise explanation, and that poets, out of poets biography also. So thank you so much student.